most likely never change. So making a good first impression is incredibly important because you only get one shot at it. Our speaker this morning is a master at the art of first impressions, and he's in the business of helping speakers and presenters amp up their careers with his skills. He utilizes his unique background in the technology sector and a separate career in the entertainment business to deliver keynote speeches that feel like a combination of your best teacher and your favorite comedian. Michael Angelo Caruso is founder and president of Edison House, an international consulting firm specializing in corporate and personal improvement. His clients include Hallmark, Bank of America, Verizon, Nissan, and the United States Navy. Michael is a lifetime Rotarian. He's also the public image coordinator for Rotary Zone 28 East. And today he's going to take a deep dive into what exactly should happen in the first few seconds of an interaction. Please welcome Michael Angelo Caruso to the Rotary Club of Tawasin.
Hey, thank you very much. Mr. Charbonneau, you're like a professional. By the way, the ringing of the bell, that is Jim Gilmore's hand. He is in my district, 6380. And I can't tell you how many times I've seen other clubs use that video. It's fabulous that it's made its way around the world. Beautiful. Today, let's talk about this idea of the first impression. I first tripped on this idea, everybody, when I was invited to do a ride-along with an old high school chum who was in the Sheboygan Police Department here in Michigan. And we jumped in the car, and I asked him if it would be okay if I write a blog about the activity, and he said, of course, that's why we do these. It's a public image thing for the police department. And I was stunned on our first stop. It was a traffic stop, a speeding stop, at how important the first impression was to Dan Frazier, Patrolman Frazier, when he got out of the car. All of the things he knew about the car that he had stopped before the first 15 seconds even started. I mean, just think about this. If you've ever been pulled over by the police, do you have any idea what they've done already by the time they open their door and get out? They've checked who owns the car. They might think they know who's in the car, but they really don't. They have no idea what's in the car, but they've ran your plates and they have an idea of your driving record, perhaps, by the time they get out. Patrolman Frazier did two things on different stops that day that intrigued me. One of the things that he did was actually check the latch of the trunk on the way around the car. Why do you think he did that? It's a dangerous time to be a police officer these days, and he was making sure he wasn't walking into a bad situation. One time he rapped on the trunk to hear how it sounded. Why did he do that? If it sounds hollow, the trunk is empty. If it sounds full, sounds full, it could be that there's contraband in the trunk. And of course, there are other things he has to consider before he asks the driver to open the trunk, but he's getting all the information he can get in that first 15 seconds. When the police officer stands to ask for your license and registration, as they do in America, I assume it's a similar process in Canada, he doesn't stand in front of you here where it's comfortable to see him. Where does the police officer normally stand? Yeah, kind of behind you. How did you know that, Joan? We all know it. We've all been stopped for various reasons. He stands behind you, and that's because, statistically speaking, most people are right-handed. If the person in the car has mace or knife or a gun, it's going to take an extra fraction of a second to come around like this, and the police officer is going to need all the time he or she can get to become defensive and engage in that altercation. So the first 15 seconds may not be a matter of life and death in your world, but it's certainly important if you're a commission-based salesperson. Thumbs up if you do sales of any kind of persuasion in your line of work. Thank you, Mr. Charbonneau. And thumbs up if you're in leadership of any kind or customer service. You know, thank you, Dave. You're coming up against people all the time who want to make decisions about you, whether they know, like, and trust you in that first 15 seconds. And here's the amazing part, ladies and gentlemen. We harm ourselves in that first 15 seconds by sending two sets of signals that often work against us. If you have a pen, I'd like to share these ideas with you right now, and you can turn them over in your head the rest of the day, maybe even share them with your work team or Rotary team, because you'll see that these first 15-second rules have implications in the Rotary world as well. The two sets of signals that we send, ladies and gentlemen, are visual, things that people see, and auditory, things that they hear. So verbal, things that we say, and visual or nonverbal, things that we do, right? I teach presentation skills, everybody. So one of the things that I learn about my clients really early on, especially in the Zoom world, is their eye contact is terrible, especially on camera. I'll give you a quick tip for this, for those of you that are presenting online, everybody, is that there are three places that you would look. First of all, we would all agree it's a good idea to have eye-to-eye contact when possible, even on Zoom. Thumbs up if you agree with me. Yeah, of course. And yet there are three places that you could be looking right now, and most of you are not establishing eye-to-eye contact with your guest speaker. The first place that we look is our own image on the screen. We become enchanted. I'm having a good hair today. My blouse or my shirt looks good on this with this lighting. Fabulous. The second place that we look is all of the other images on the screen. It's kind of fun catching up with people, checking out their blouses and whether or not they're having a good hair day. And yet you still haven't established eye contact with the one person you need to, and that's the person who's speaking to you right now. So the best way to establish eye contact with the person you're talking to is to look into the lens of the camera, which is way, way up here, everybody. It's counterintuitive to be looking into the lens of the camera because you're ignoring the other two faces on the screen, yours and the other person's. But that is indeed how you establish eye-to-eye contact. Lots of people selling right now online because they can't get in to see their customers. And if you're selling online, you want to be looking directly into the lens of the camera, even though you're ignoring the animation on the screen down below. So there you go. There are three ways to establish the first 15 seconds, and it's done under the umbrella, if you will, of brand awareness. Will you write that down? I think Rotarians need to be more aware of their brand, not only as Rotarians, but as a club. Certainly districts need to be aware of the brand. And our paired zones now, 24 and 20 and 30, 28 and 32, correct? I think is the new paired zones coming into the new Rotary year. We need to be hyper aware of our zone image as well because of the current membership problem, which is only going to get worse under COVID. So let's talk about brand awareness and how it works. We'll operate here in kind of two simultaneous conversations if you can handle it. One is Rotary and the other is non-Rotary, because you can get a double and triple dip when you think about brand awareness. You as an employee, you as a citizen of the world, you as a member of your condo association, you as a leader or department head at your company, you as a salesperson, right? All these are non-Rotary applications. And then the Rotary applications include you as a Rotarian, a membership chair, foundation officer in your club or your district, right? All of these types of brands. So I want to turn you on to three ways we need to think about our brands in a different way. The first is just this idea of self-concept or self-esteem. When I teach presentation training online, I spend an inordinate and at first it was unpredictable to me. I had no idea I'd be spending this much time with people on things like self-esteem and self-concept. But people that have trouble presenting, especially if they're presenting some idea of theirs or something that they want to do, it's often shrouded in poor self-esteem or poor self-concept. Imagine you're listening to someone speak and that person doesn't believe in themselves. You quickly realize how quickly this would negatively impact how persuasive they are as they're asking you to get on board for their idea. And so self-esteem and self-concept are extremely important. And I spend a lot of time with this with my clients because they're getting ready to get up in front of a room, or they spend a lot of time and money to get in front of a client. And then they walk in with this kind of shabby self-concept, and it hurts them and it hurts their call to action. I find that this first level, self-concept, self-esteem, feeds the second level of the three things I want to share with you today. And the second one is just pride of who you are. Pride, say, in your Rotary Club. Now, most of us would say we're proud of our Rotary Club. But what I discovered when I was governor in 2016-17 is that a lot of Rotary clubs are kind of in stasis right now. Thumbs up if you know what I mean by stasis. Status quo. They're having trouble getting new events going. They haven't grown in years, some in decade, right? So you can still be proud of your club, but you know in your heart, if your club is static, that you're not a role model club. Maybe foundation giving has flagged. Maybe membership is slowed. Maybe you're having trouble getting people to serve in officer positions. Laureen, I hope that you haven't been president before, have you? It's always a bad sign when someone's serving as president again. I just talked to a new club. They've only been a club for 4 years. They chartered with 57 members 4 years ago. And someone is serving as president again for the second time. That is not a good harbinger of things to come, ladies and gentlemen. So pride in your club because you know you're the best Rotary Club you can be. You're a role model Rotary Club or a role model district. This is really important. So we have self-concept, which feeds this thing called pride, and then pride feeds something called value. Because when you have a good self-concept and you're very proud of your work, you understand intrinsically, without having to discuss it or convince yourself, that what you're offering has value. And when you know without a doubt that what you're offering has value, it comes across in a way that you can't fake. This is that confidence. This is that very, very strong first impression where you walk into a room and people look up to see who you are. And people instantly decide. It doesn't even take them 15 seconds. They instantly decide they want to meet you. They want to know who you are. They want to get your business card. They want to know if you're going to come back to the club again because you have this thing I call clean energy. You know, all of us have energy, but only some of us have clean energy. Did you ever meet somebody with unclean energy? I'm pretty sure you have. And those are the kinds of people, we want to help them, but we don't necessarily seek out people with unclean energy. We like those people that walk in and there's no issues, no baggage, and you're just thinking to yourself, this is like the coolest person I've met in a long time. Imagine if every Rotarian was like this, that when they visit your club, or they're even attracted to your club because of the way you do your marketing or because of the people that are already in your club. So this is a fantastic way to go about things. Let's talk about some examples about how this can play out, and then I'm happy to do some Q&A with you. I'm sure you have some questions about first impressions, online and in person. I've done a ton of Rotary visits in the 26 years I've been in Rotary. I've spoken at hundreds of Rotary events. In fact, I do a seminar, professional development seminar for clubs. Although I'm a professional speaker, I waive my speaking fee for Rotary, and this little thing that I've done has helped Rotary clubs in North America. We've almost raised $300,000 US for this now. So if you're interested in this down the road, when we get physical again, I'll show you how we put 100 people in the room. We give them a very strong first impression of Rotary, and we give them a fantastic leadership seminar. And then they want to come back to your club. I'll actually help people recruit people to your club if you're interested. So imagine we're in a physical setting right now and visitors are walking in. And in the Rotary world, we crave visitors, don't we? We know that our club can't grow without visitors, and we know the visitor has to come back how many times in order to join the club? It's 3 in my part of the world. Maybe it's different over there, but I think it's 3. And so we've got to get them to come back, not only a second time, but a third time. And yet, in most clubs that I've been to, I'm not, let's say, overly welcomed by individuals in the club. Do you know what I mean by overly welcomed? The president or the secretary always says, we want to greet all the guests, and they always list the names. But in a room of 50 people, I'll be lucky if 10 Rotarians come up to shake my hand. And the reason for this is quite natural. We get interested in ourselves, and we gravitate toward people that we know. So we'll greet people that we see every week, and people that we sit with. We've got to find our seats, that kind of a thing, right? We don't exactly line up to meet the visitors when they come to the club. And what I suggest to Rotary clubs is that if you had a rule or some sort of a guideline that said every Rotarian will physically meet every guest, physically means in their space, in their presence. Used to mean handshake. I don't know if we're going to be going back to that or not. But imagine in your club, and Laureen, how many members do you have in your great club now? You're going to have to unmute to tell me. Or anyone can answer.
Yeah, we have 64 people, Michael.
All right, great, 64. It's a good sized club. So imagine in a club of 64 people when somebody walks in and they're auditioning your group. They're either going to join Kiwanis or the Optimists or the Chamber of Commerce. They want to get involved in the community. Imagine if you could get 50 of those 64 attending members, and I realize everybody doesn't attend every meeting, to come up and say hello and give that person a virtual hug. That would be an incredible show of emotion and gratitude and courtesy and professionalism. I mean, they'd be very hard pressed not to be impressed and want to come back a second time. Thumbs up if you agree with me on this. So if we could just get people to do that, and even in the Zoom call today, we had a few minutes as we're getting started, and most of the visiting is done with the regular members of the club. I mean, I did type a physical greeting, and Laureen was great to say hello to me. Paul invited me to speak. Thank you, Paul. He said hi. Mr. Charbonneau actually messaged me a hello. Thank you very much. But imagine if we converted a little bit of that self-attention to the visitors, not just the guest speaker, but the visitors. It would play really well. A second example of this is this idea of bringing young members into our organization, what we call the next generation, 30-somethings and 40-somethings. You know that now Rotaractors are considered an official part of Rotary. It's been an interesting onboarding process because the announcement to bring Rotaractors on was virtually detail-free. There were no rules or details about how we were going to do it. We were just told to get it done. And so here we are now with a chance to bring in these 30-somethings and 40-somethings, and yet we just don't seem that interested in it, you know. I'm hearing from Rotaractor after Rotaractor who's being told to sit in the back of the room and wait your turn to speak, wait your turn to be president. We're not really interested in your ideas. We have ideas from people that have been in the club a lot longer than you. And there's a little bit of this going on. I talked to a Rotaractor, or I shouldn't say a Rotaractor, a YoPro. You know what that means. Thank you, Joan. Young professional. The YoPros are, extremely valuable to us. And I'm going to tell you something. If you don't give them some attention now, they're going to leave you. Because YoPros love attention. And it doesn't cost anything for us to give them attention. What am I talking about here? Compliments, which you can levy in the first 15 seconds of an interaction. You look great. Man, you always seem like you're in a good mood. Looks like you're getting good sleep. So it's all kinds of fun things. You can say them to anybody, but the YoPros especially love it. Us older people, we're like, yeah, get over yourself. But the young people, they love these messages. And I managed to message with a young person online, a YoPro online, who said to me,